Good morning.
Good evening.
Good afternoon.
And good day to you.
Good day, everyone. Hello. Welcome along to Declan On A Roll. This week, we're on a roll with Theodore the Mind and virtual tabletops and Battlemaps and minis and all the bits.
I thought you said Beth and Declan. I was like,
surprise,
Beth?
my name's Beth.
Who's Beth?
Short for Elizabeth.
Oh, Elizabeth! I'm going to change your name in my phone to Elizabeth.
Oh, no.
I know.
I'm
doing it.
I am Benifer in a lot of phones.
No, you're my Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth II. But yeah, we're gonna talk about all those things this week. I don't have my lights and stuff, so now you actually, this is the color of this room. It's kind of just a sort of bluish, palish, kind of whitish room. That's what this room looks like. I'd show you it, but I'd ruin the cameras because normally I've got my Declan On A Roll lights. But I'm on fans of Homebrew will know Lucy, who plays Ignatius O'Fla. But my phone's getting repaired, and my phone has the Lights app on it, and Lucy lent me a phone, and I didn't bother downloading the Lights app. So that's the little bit of news that no one needed, but it filled some time as I got my name changed in Declan's phone.
You did? Wait. Why didn't it change everywhere?
Oh.
I can't show it without doxing your number.
It's fair. I'll get my number out to people. It's probably on the internet somewhere. I wonder if you... Yeah, probably somewhere. I bet it's up there if you just Google my name and then Google an Irish number. You'd probably find me. I've had it since I was like 10 years old, so please don't harass me with it. I'd hate to change it. It would be such a pain.
This is the second phone number I have. I still remember the first one. And
dox that person.
I'll dox
over there. Dox them. Whoever has their new number or old number.
Well, actually, funnily enough, that's one of the reasons I had to change it, is I did get doxed.
Yeah. Not all fun and games.
Then a vengeful ex.
I see. I was on a call the other day where I was chatting to some people behind a project. I can't really talk much about it when it's out. I'll tell people about it. I'm not being coy. It's just generally the situation. But they're like, where are you traveling from? And I said kind of roughly in the country where I'm from. And they're like, oh, I just feel like weird asking. Like, I don't want to feel like we're doxing you. It's like, we're on a private call. It's okay to ask me where I live. That's fine. I'm pretty open with that.
Actually, Ben, you're on national television.
That's okay. I'll narrow it down. Where I live is flooding in Ireland today. As is everywhere, it seems.
Except for where Zool is, where the sun is lovely.
The sun is shining. I have a friend and a colleague at work who's going on a hen tomorrow in Carrick-on-Shannon. And if anyone knows Ireland, Shannon is our big river. So that is going to be, I pray for a non-washout for them.
Well, for us, like, it's really weird because everyone's like going on about how the East Coast is getting it really, really bad. Normally it's the West. Normally the West is all this awful weather, and there's a mild drizzle outside.
Oh, yeah, it's not, to be honest, it really isn't bad where I am today. Just loads of networks and public transporty things got shut down by floods. Yeah, all the usual ones. Actually, where we thought we might buy, and we're like, well, that's safe and inland. That flooded, and we're by the sea. So it's the river.
Look, I am not going to come out like a good person. The house that I really wanted to buy is in a flood zone. And it was one of the worst things, the first thing that came into my head today as we were driving past the river. And I was like, oh gosh, I wonder if it's going to, and like we passed it, I was like, oh boy, that's real high. So I was like, oh, I can see now why they wouldn't let me buy a house as a first time buyer.
Yeah, you don't want this. Whereas for me, they let me. Like, floodplain, is it? Yeah, no problem.
You'll love that.
It's uninsurable anyway. It's an old home. But we're not here to talk about property and weather in Ireland. We're here to talk about tabletop stuff. Declan, you sort of... Oh, sorry, you had a thought?
No, go for it. No, I didn't.
All right. You suggested the theme for this week. You kind of were thinking about it. Is there anything that prompted that suggestion? What kind of came to mind?
Kind of. I've been thinking lately about maybe doing like paid GMing and like setting up kind of an account, running games, and it's just a thing that's just kind of there. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I'd be a good fit for this. Is a lot of this not all through virtual tabletop tools? Like, do I need to go now and figure out Roll20, or is it is it Forge? The Forge?
Foundry. Yeah.
And like, it's funny because they're all things I've been in games that have been used, and I just it got me thinking about like, is this something that I should do to level up my my skill set as a game master? Like, I rarely use maps. Like, I like maps, and I will have a map ready for the players for reference. But I'm not going to. I've never been one for a grid, and you're here, and let's measure that out, and let's figure. And I've never. So it kind of like, because I am 100% theater of the mind. Like, it's it's my preferred style. But it purely was just from a skill set. Is this something that I should learn? Does that diversify kind of the people, the games that I can run and work with? And I kind of came down on I don't really like those tools.
I think that's fair. Like, well, first, if anyone in the audience uses VTT tools or uses Battlemaps at home, I know in the Waterdeep game I'm playing at the moment with some friends, we use Roll20, and it has pre-made maps, and we kind of play in that sense. We sort of use it as a reference. I'd be similar to you. Like, I use maps in the games I run for flavor, or like to just kind of add like the way I use a prop. So if they found an interesting key, and I just happened to be in an antique store the week before, and I found a cool key, I'd be like, it's this key. And same with maps. I'd be like, you find this canvas map. So I like that, but I don't think it's funny because most battle maps and VTTs are maps. I think we're kind of confusing props with and the general sense of like a city map or whatever. And I would say for the first thing we're saying about professional GMing and DMing, I think you'd be okay not using the tools, but just being clear on your profile, because there'll be people out there who will happily be theater of mind players as well. I count myself in that category. Probably no harm to have them, but if someone's going to pay someone every week, I'd imagine it's a better experience paying them for the thing they want to also do and are like better at than like you'd be putting yourself against someone who loves that thing. So it's like, if I bat a tenner or a fiver, I could pay Declan for an incredible theater of the mind game that Declan's planned, or I could pay Draclin for the incredible VTT system that Draclin has planned. So like, I'd go to the DM with his strengths, right? But I'm similar to you. I love theater of the mind, yet I see the use, I think, for some VTTs. I find it, and I know Zul in chat absolutely has to have a map in combat or sneaking around. I think that helps for like, okay, well, I'll be able to plan and strategize. But we both as DMs don't really play like tactical strategy combat games. We play like court intrigue, political role play. Like, is there another word for that? You know what I mean?
I know. I think we don't do tactical strategy. We do narrative strategy.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think our rules around strategy tend to be a little bit more cinematic. There's roles and there's stuff like that as well. So I think, we are very much aligned on that.
And for a player like Zul, I'd say at my table for sneaking and combat, most of the time, the battle maps and VTTs can be sort of an unofficial arbitrator. You are exactly 30 feet away. You're 35, you're 40, you're exactly where you are. This is etc. So the DM doesn't have to feel like they're saying no to something, or the players don't feel like the DM's saying no to something. That like, this is the literal law of the land. This is the map. You've drawn the walls. You've told me where all the things are. You can't tell me there's not a fireplace in this room because I see it with my literal eyes on the map.
Yeah.
Whereas I think so. You'd be okay at a table I was running because sneak around. I'm like, I err on the side of the player characters aren't stupid and aren't like, and not the people who use VTT maps or battle maps, those DMs think that either, but it's just like, yeah, you're a rogue. Of course you'll find a good corner sneak in, or of course, like a combat, like, am I close enough to cast this spell? I'm like, yeah, probably. Unless I've made it explicitly clear that they are, you know, a good distance away. And so most of the time, and you'd see this in Homebrew, and you'd see this in Romancing a Dungeon, even really far distance spells, that's like, maybe I'll go, you're slightly out of range, and then the player goes, actually, the range is like 500 feet. And I'm like, right, yeah, then you're definitely in range. Like, you're fine. And it's a little bit that way with splash damage, where because I have a clear picture in my head of where the enemies are clumped and plundered, I can be pretty confident to be like, yeah, there's probably 3 or 4 of them over that side. Or, to be honest, they all rushed in. There's 10 of them there. There's the exact clump. I try to not go, well, let's roll the dice and see how many you hit, and leave it up to, you're nerfing something by leaving it up to luck when a map allows it to be its absolute maximum damage or kind of impact. Or rather, it's the player's choice. You can draw that kind of radius and go, yeah, I'll get all these people and I'll just about miss this person. Whereas, weirdly in my head, I find it less believable. I'm like, so you managed to like it's an explosion, and yet in the heat of battle, you were like, that exact point there, as if there's geometry going on. Now, for wizards, obviously, there's a little bit of that, but I think you're making the world safer for you, and it's a world about being in danger and stakes. That's where my head sits. So allow for a little bit of like, yeah, you sent fireball off into a room, you might hit some people. And I'll let luck decide that. I'll let the players roll like a dexterity or a luck roll to be like, okay, you're just out. But the bad guys and the enemies rarely get that privilege, because I have what they don't. I can always just have more enemies behind the next door. Like, I can just, if they wipe out people and I feel like, okay, well, that didn't really slow them down, guess what? I can, like, until you open the next door, there could be another horde of orcs in there, or not. Like,
my first experiences with this hobby were theater of the mind, and like the GMs that I played with in college all use theater of the mind, and I like to think that I drew a lot of influence from them. And I guess before we kind of go further into this, this isn't sort of a theater of the mind good, VTTs bad episode.
Yes.
That's not what we're not going to sit here and kind of go, we're both theater of the mind and it's the spirit. It's not. It's horses for courses. And I love it's fun. I can listen to hours of actual play content where like that the GM and the players are vividly describing, and I get to picture it and I get to imagine it and see AGM Paul's Nexus. I have it there. Even if I'm just in the audience and I'm just listening. For me, I think one of my things with the likes of virtual tabletop tools, and Zul, I do appreciate your comment about learning Roll20. Like I've used it. I've used it as a player. I've used it as a DM for home games and stuff like that. I used to use during COVID. I was using. There was this Discord plugin for rolling dice as well, and it was Avray or something.
Rings a bell.
And you could load your character into it, and so I'm not. It's not that I'm adverse to digital tools and stuff like that, but I think I have a hard time with them because they feel too like a video game for me. They feel too close to that sort of tactical strategy game where I move my piece this place and now I can see this and I can do this. I love gaming, and I love those types of games. But for me, I like to lose myself in theater of the mind. Um, I um, I do. I like to kind of absorb. I think it lets me get into character better. I feel like I can have a sense of what's happening. It's all, I guess, all the stuff that drew me to this hobby, 20 years ago, about kind of, you know, escapism and getting lost in the story. Um, I haven't found that with a virtual tabletop tool. I haven't found that same sort of feeling. Um, and I've often, as a player where they're used, I've often found it, to be honest, a little overwhelming.
And I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say we'd both absolutely jump at the opportunity to play the likes of like a Hero Quest, or there's that board game Descent, I think, where they kind of the maps come out and you do play piece by piece.
Yeah.
And I would 100% play that on a digital tool, or because I do play them on a physical table. And then I can move my barbarian, I can do all the different things there. From a D&D point of view, and to Zoe's point about like battlefield control effects and tactics, I think it's easier to lose all subjectivity when there's a battle map in front of you. But part of me, when I see that, is like, but can't you do battlefield control effects and tactics in theater of the mind? If like, it's a different style of play, and I think you need a different dynamic DM and player, because a lot of DMs, I think, obviously we talk a lot at the table, and so anytime we feel like we're not being clear, we get a little bit sharp and a little bit blunt. And so a player being like, oh, is there this? Is there that? What's this over here? Like a player getting a sense of the battlefield can take kind of 5 to 10 minutes. And over that 5 to 10 minutes, the DM more likely than not is going to turn around and say, just tell me what you want to do, and I'll, and they'll get a bit snarky about it.
Yeah.
Whereas a battle map solves that all. It's like, okay, I'm going to plan my next 3 moves because I can see my exact 30 feet here, and I'm going to dash, and then that's going to give me the opportunity to hide here. I'll move around. Because I think in theater mind, to devil's advocate my own point about tactics and battlefield control effects, I think this happens quite often to players in theater mind. Okay, I have a great plan for 2 moves from now, and I'm going to get myself in position, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that. And then by the time you're kind of there, the battlefield is sort of moved on, or someone else has done it. But when all the players can see it, they can like, I see what you're doing. I'll leave that alone. I can kind of, it's potentially acceptable metagaming. To be like, it's kind of impossible not to metagame if, like, we don't have. Correct me if I'm wrong about the tools for anyone watching, but it's not like if the rogue stealths that I don't see a lot of DMs. Never in a game I played, they actually just turn off the token and suddenly no one knows except for the rogue where the rogue is. And not you can do it, but I've never seen anyone actually use it that way. And I would imagine it's because it will add more chaos. A little bit like, is that board game called Robo Rally, where you're all little robots and you're trying to get around a factory and you put your moves in order, but they have to go in order too?
Yes. Yeah.
It's a little bit like, I can imagine a VTT that was only individual view and individual fog of war being that confusing, because it's like, I'm going to run in and slash. It's like in the Wizards, like, I'm going to blast them with this. And the like Warlock's like, I'm going to cast Hunger of Hadar. And like, it's all chaos. And so you lose a little bit of that tactical.
Yes.
That we all kind of happily accept is there. And to wrap that all out, I think there's a difference because we often play, the majority of the games we play these days have an audience. Whereas I'm more comfortable with a VTT at home because I feel less under pressure to take I can take my time, I can look at it, I can measure it out. No one really minds if I'm kind of, sometimes when I play on streams with VTTs, and I'm like in the background doing something, it's visible to the audience. They're like, Ben, what are you doing? It's distracting. Like, as you see my little like thing goes, you see me ping something. It sort of draws spotlight and attention in a way that isn't sound or cool to do on a stream. And probably it is. I don't know. I don't know etiquette around VTTs either. But it's like, I'm in my head, I'm thinking, I'm probably pulling focus here.
but you do come to a point with them, and I have again in stream like in streams I've played in. There's always the technical issue. There's always like I mean D8 Dungeon in general. We have tech issues constantly, and for me, it's putting in another tech thing into that. And like I've seen, it's that thing. Oh, hang on, my sheet's not working. Hang on, let me just. I gotta. Oh, hang on. What's the like? And I just what can often be a frustrating thing, where like it's like I'm just waiting for you to take your turn. I'm waiting for you to take your turn. It's well now you can't take your turn because the thing's not working, or you can't move your mini on the map, or you did but now you've vanished. I I just for me I've often found that sort of again it's that immersion breaks for me. Then it's the oh yeah I'm back in the room and I'm playing a game. I just I like again it's just not the flavor of game I look for. And this is I guess this is what I do keep coming back to. I'm not adverse to learning them, and I'm not adverse to using digital tools, but I've yet to find the right fit for me. And like I do love, and like I've said this, I do love, and I know you, Ben, you just said it's a map. I love a battle map. I love, like I will happily sit down and create a city map or a town map or that road that I is a big part of our story, and I want you all to see it, and I want my my players to add to it. Love that stuff, but I need to find. I don't think I have found that in Foundry, and I don't think I found it in Roll20.
And I wonder if it's like it could go beyond the very tools themselves, because there's something inherently odd that we just sort of accept when we play, especially Dungeons and Dragons or games a little bit like Dungeons and Dragons, which is we're going to play this game, and this is how this works, and these are the rules, and you act your character, and you describe what you say. Okay, cool. I understand it. And now we're going to play this game, but it's still Dungeons and Dragons, and it's a battle map, and it's minis, and it's rolling dice. It's like, okay, cool. And now we're going to play this game, and it's a battle map, but it's survival, and it's a chase. And you're like, it's... For me, I love a consistent experience at the table. So, now don't get me wrong, I still feel, when I used to play over in Toronto with a wonderful DM, I did get that excitement of like, you're kind of role-playing, you're kind of going around, and then like, the tone changes and it's like everybody roll initiative and the map comes out and you're kind of like, oh shit, like we're gonna go down. But sometimes it kind of forced combat where we're like, well, we weren't planning on fighting these people, but you've gone to all this effort and you brought the minis, and I guess we, minis don't exist for role-playing reasons. A mini exists to actually, hold on, this is exactly, so this is the mini I played with. Actually, I made two, because I'm this is early Hero Forge. I made just me, in case I ever needed to be in like Last Night on Earth or something. I was like, that's just me with a bottle of beer being like, hey. And then this is the bard I played, whose name was Ku. Wasn't his real name, it was just his little nickname. But the point I was going to make is minis exist to be knocked over. And on the bottom of my thing, I just wrote, because if I'm this way aligned on the bottom map, that's a problem. But that's the, like, they exist to be like flicked over, pre-toppled. Like there's no, and you made better friends with them. I've never seen someone use a battle map or minis to be like, and you build the tree together. Like they're inherently destructive in a way. And yet, if we played a game like, I think we'd feel differently if we whipped out, what's that mosaic game or that rug making game? Do you know what you're making? A window, I think it's like
Sagrada.
Yeah, like I'd be into that at a D&D table where it's just like, okay, this is essentially a representation of the social graces of the party and the pieces of the different kind of connections between the political realms that you're picking up, and you've made this tapestry. So it's not there's something inherent about VTT and battle maps that isn't just that it's physically kind of a different thing. Because if we all made like if we all played Sushi Go at the table, I'd be like, yeah, this is our foraging game. So there's something different about it that I just don't think twigs for ourselves. And I'm really trying to figure out over the course of this hour what that is, because I'm not as opposed, I think, as you are.
Yeah.
But I don't like running them as a GM. I'm happy to play in them, but I like as a GM, I'm like, but our imaginations never have technical issues, and our imaginations don't have like. I often find it's like, well, it's not exactly this, but this is kind of what I'm drawing. It's because I'm not a very good outliner. Paul might be making reference to something we did in Homebrew recently. Physical puzzles are a pain at the table in my experience. Yep, yeah, they sure are. I had fun, but you're probably watching. Paul's probably editing footage of me now tearing my hair out as we did a puzzle recently.
Is it where you had to put back the sword of cognac?
No, it's not. That should be a puzzle. My poor sword, my poor broken sword. It was a beautiful puzzle, an incredible puzzle. I won't spoil it because it's in Paul's campaign, but you could see us being like, it. I think to Paul's point, that was a lot of fun at the table, but we're aware there's an audience watching. No one wants to watch like three drunken idiots be like, what is this thing? So we'll probably cut it into a fun montage of sorts with out of context like elements to it. We'll condense it as an experience for the audience. The alternative to physical puzzles at the table is, I think they're okay if they're not immediately necessary for the problem directly in front of the players. If you hand someone a puzzle box at the start of the campaign and say, give this back to me when you solve it, perfectly fine. Because that could be your way to say, like, it just twigs. Like, that piece of information just lands as like the physical solving of this as a player. You're like, the moment you solve it, you remember the name of the person in the room in the shadow that betrayed the king or queen, and you're like, oh, cool, because you were just noodling over it. But the audience makes a big difference with VTTs. We briefly chatted about, do we bring people in who use VTTs? Life was, as often with the show, because we try to make it easier on ourselves. Life was busy, but we should. We'll get people's takes to bring them back, because it's, even if it's just little tidbits in future episodes, a case for VTTs and battle maps will be good, because we're trying to figure out what we're missing. I think the two of us as people are like, what's wrong with us?
It's not what's wrong with VTTs.
Yeah.
What's wrong with us? Yeah. And like Zula's kind of pointed out, I'm a very visual person, so sometimes I need a map to get a feel of where we are or where everything and everyone is, or my brain is really strange and my immersion is gone. And again, this is, I think, what we're even just in that last point kind of saying that it's one of those things where I see all of the uses and benefits of a VTT. I like this, again, this isn't a sort of, let's just, pitchfork and torch a Roll20 out of here. It's not that, but because like I've been in games where I can see that it's helping somebody who might not be as comfortable in the role-playing side of it, but or doesn't have the best kind of imagination, or doesn't want to use their imagination. Maybe it is just, actually, that takes time, that takes energy. I'm wrecked. I want to sit down. I want to look at the map on the screen, and I want to be able to drop my mini 30 feet on it. Great. I'm now 50 feet away from the thing. I cast whatever. I get it. I just want someone to make me enjoy it.
My thing about it sometimes is, because I'm a little bit like yourself, it feels like a video game, and I'm like, well, if we wanted to do this, we should all be playing Baldur's Gate right now. Like, there's other ways to do this, and sometimes I find, this is definitely a sweeping statement, sometimes I find battle maps and VTTs slow down the game unnecessarily, because we start to overthink. The amount of times I've seen a battle map and everyone's minis cluttered at the door, and people are like, maybe I'll go over here, maybe I'll go here, maybe I'll sneak around, but what if there's traps? Like, Whereas in a Theater of the Mind game, it's just like, you know, the door's there, you guys moving in. There's a little bit of put yourself in that danger. Whereas it's very hard, I think. I'm going to use my camera for this, for anyone in the world to be like, okay, so I see half the map, and the bit I don't see, that feels scary and dangerous, and what's in there. So I'm not going to go in there, or I'm going to like overly take my time about it. And I think certain systems suit themselves better. We don't really play systems that are bottom map oriented. Like Draw Steel is definitely one. I feel like Shadow Dark is one that's like necessary for the game, because it's so, well, you did say you took 5 steps forward, and like, well, you didn't say you had your 10-foot pole poking traps. Like there's sort of an element of you enter your room, what do you do? Search for traps. Okay, no traps. Search for monsters. Okay, the monsters are dead. Search for treasure. It's like, in that sense of what I don't see. I was playing Hero Quest with my nephew, and we had to sort of teach him to, like, you have to say those things, because it's not readily available on the map. Like, you search, and yes, there is a hidden thing. Whereas I just prefer a style of play where it's like, I look at people's passive perception or investigation, or if someone prompts it, they'll go, yeah, you know, there's something there. Or sometimes, because it's set, the world is set, like it's very much, this is the map. It's nice to be able to go, okay, I had a thing for them. I was going to give it to them later when it's Theater of the Mind, but I give it to them now, actually. They did look for it now. They prompted me now. Whereas if you're like, here's your map, here's your module, it's like, it's not in this room. And I just don't like the style of play where it's like, okay, I search every room then. Like, do you need me to go every corner, every question mark, exhaust this until there's no fog of war left, and then I can comfortably say there's nothing here? Whereas I feel like Theater of the Mind, it's like, you know, I'm looking around for interesting stuff. It's like, well, you don't find it in this room, but you do wander in the hall and you find it in that room. Just gives a little bit more leeway to DM, in my mind. But again, as someone who doesn't use it, I'm probably totally wrong. That's
I kind of want to say, like, I want to go back to kind of a point that Paul kind of made, not necessarily the physical puzzles, but it was along the idea of, with an audience, it makes it painful. I think battle maps are the same, fun at a home game, but it slows down a show. And I think that's something I don't know. Like, again, I listen to and I watch an awful lot of actual play content, and I listen to an awful lot of audio dramas. And for me, the best ones are where there aren't VTTs, where it's a bunch of people sitting around spinning that world for me and letting me, in my own mind, then kind of immerse myself in it. So I feel like, and I feel like it slows down, because again, when you said it, it's a thing of like, you're at home in a home game, you're grand to kind of, let me just check that, let me measure that, let me see. Because I think in that regard, we all know we're getting together of a Saturday and it's going to be 6 hours. It's going to be like, we're all rocking over at lunchtime and we're going to be ordering pizza later. You know, it's going to be that. So I think there, where you're not condensing it into a 3 hour, 2.5 hour, whatever it might be. Like, I mean, combat in a streamed or broadcast space is, I find, incredibly boring. Like, if you take like, combat is meant to be, you know, there's energy, there's tension, it's the conflict, it's the drama of it all. And then it gets to the point of, like you said, it's the person who's like, okay, I was actually going to do something else, but now that's shifted and changed, so let me just figure out what I'm going to do. And is that a, you know, a D4 or a D8, or what do I, you have all that, right? And that I've always been able to kind of, well, that's part of the game. That's part of figuring out. I'm not, but I find when that then gets compounded with, I'll move here. No, hang on. If I do that, then that's going to do this. There's almost like another level of second guessing the move.
Yeah. And yet, weirdly, I think where it works, in like big shows, like Critical Role, I haven't dipped too much into campaign 4, but 1 and 2, they used minis and maps, and it was kind of an exciting. They'd set it up and they'd move it around. I think there still was a little bit like, oh, that's where I am, or like, where am I, or like there's still that confusion. Now they bought into the fact that their shows are 4 or 5 hours long, or like 3 at a shortest. It's like, what's the word for little in time? And Dimension 20 definitely do it as well, but I think they have a different approach. I can't remember exactly. I don't know if they're using any minis in Gladlands, but I know in some of the Fantasy High, it's almost post-production. There's like a 3D space that's like for the audience to see the kind of minis as if it's going through like a VTT, but I don't know if they have that at the table. I think they play Theater of Mind, but then someone in the edit does
makes these things happen. Okay.
Makes the thing. So it kind of gives, for someone like Zool, who's very visual, helps them picture the space. And for us who are kind of wordy or focused, we're like, we don't need the, like, I know Wes and Homebrew would constantly rip me for this, where I'd be like, you come to a castle, and he's like, what does it look like? I'm like, a castle. Like, what do you mean? He's like, but like, how many towers? Like, what's the brick made of? Is there a moat? Is there a bridge? Like, is there like, are there guards outside? I'm like, it's a castle. Picture it. But in my head, it's like, it really doesn't matter if everyone at the table has a different genre or visual style in their own imagination. Like, if I'm playing with someone and they're picturing a Sesame Street style cardboard castle and all of us are Muppets, it doesn't change the fact that, like, if I'm picturing this kind of grim, gritty Ravenloft castle and like all of us are like gritty, drawn sketches, because the story is still true. And it's that little bit of like, when you're younger and you have these like wild, like, whoa, I've smoked for the first time. It's like, what if your color purple is different to my color purple? My answer to that is like, so what? We both have a reference for the same, basically what you understand, I understand. We're all good. So there's that for Theater of the Mind. But I wanted to get into Paul's other question in chat. And I've been trying to think of it in the background. It doesn't matter the type of battle. And I don't know. Maybe people in chat could, like, a chase is probably different, but I don't mind a chase where you just have kind of like progress that, like, or like counters where it's just like you just need to get 3 ahead. Sometimes if it's really important, like boss battle, and we actively know that we're doing like tactical, this really, really matters, and we need that arbitrator of objectively this is the shape, then sure. I used to have some maps on, we kind of did half and half for Homebrew Campaign 1, where I draw some maps, I'm like, there it is, and then I'm like, what's this over here? I'm like, ignore that. Don't worry about that.
That's where I dropped my burrito.
Yeah. We did it for the big Beholder fight in Hell, I think. Did they go to Hell? They went to some underground spot, underworld's area. We had a kind of map for that. I think we had a kind of map for the big battle in the tree. But honestly, I think that the map just kind of we kind of threw it up on screen because we thought it would be nicely visual for people, but it just got in the way for us. But do you think the type of battle matters?
No. Do you mean from my own perspective as like, does that matter to me, like in what kind of I'm doing? Like, again, I see the merit to like that. It's the big boss battle. And I want to be fully transparent. This is the room, this is the shape, these are the corners, these are the obstacles, these are the get it. But then if you're doing it for that, why not do it for there's 4 goblins and they're robbing from a cart. Okay, hang on, let me just take control of those minis. Oh crap, that's the wrong one. Oh, I've moved the cart. Whoops. That's where I just, yeah, and I'm not like I don't want this to come across as, oh, Declan hates VTs. I just think when it comes to, and actually Paul's just said it for me, it turns it into it turns it into that video game. You've spawned on the level. There are 8 things in front of you to kind of get there. Well, there's 8 things, I can see them. I'll just kill the 8 things. And you're like, well, there was actually loads of other ways of dealing with this. And like famously, I have a really good example of this from Romancing the Dungeon in season 1. The gang are on their way back. They've survived the encounter with Morag at the Jasmine Garden Inn, and they're on the old road towards the city of Tezrab, and they encounter a bugbear by the name of Shakespeare, and his band of kind of kobolds and goblins who have set up a kind of a barricade that blocks the road to terrorize / perform for people. And I had this all set up as this is going to be a fun little sort of it's Declan's butchering of Ian McKellen as a bugbear, and he's going to try it because it was meant to be lighthearted. We've just done something awful.
Yeah.
And Dermot, who played Thane, just went on I'm going to kill him. I'm just going to kill him. I'm just going to kill him. And that's not what I had intended. And that happened in Theater of the Mind. And I played this as super, like, he's like he's feeding lines to his cast of brigands. And that happened in Theater of the Mind. And I remember a couple of the others were like, oh, okay, I guess. And then Fia goes on a rampage, sort of Rambo style. That's how I see combat in VTTs. It's that automatic, and we spawned in the level, go.
Potentially by their very nature, because we mainly use it for combat, that it's like this signals that combat is all other doors and all other avenues have been closed. And we know because, like, you know, Dungeons and Dragons was built as a war game predominantly. And it's like the system, as much as they would claim it's not, is built for combat. They're like, if you look at the books and took out every page that didn't have some rule or some impact on combat, you'd have very thin books. I think you take out the entire monster manual basically, because it's like these have stats. They say that the old adage is like, don't give something HP if you don't want it to die. And so it's a strange one, because I don't mind, like, Paul might remember this. We played, I think it was Descent. It was one of these board games. And one of my, like, fond memories, I played like a nimble elf. And the idea was we were in this big lush green map, and we had to get an item, and we had to fight our way through a bunch of things. And I realized that my character and this little card was set up for, like, incredible bouts of speed. And so I actually think the person, I suppose Game Master is probably the correct term, but our friend who was running it was objectively disappointed and genuinely had a horrible time, while I, on the opposite side, had an incredible time. We had a map, and it was like so long. It was this really long map, and I was this little elf, and I was like, I think if I move and dash and move, and then use this thing, and then use this thing, and go down this waterfall, I think I can get to where we need to get this thing in like 2 moves. And we did it, and it worked. And our person running was like, well, that's technically correct. And yes, you've won that level, but I don't feel like we played the game right. And yet I remember at the time, because it was a map, because it was a battle map, I was just like, guys, and I could see it, I was like, I think I have this. I think we can fucking win this. And it's quite whatever game we were playing was quite difficult. Like, the players weren't meant to win all that often. It ends with, like, you know, you've collected 2 or 3 of the credible items, the bad guys collected 2 or 3 of the credible items, and you've kind of fight it out at the end with these relics. And we ended up losing. Like, we didn't win the actual game, but that sort of thing I don't mind. And for things like, say, in Romancing and some of the runoff, the spin-off adventures, like Trap would benefit with a battle map. because you'd be like, well, I'm just going to fucking zip across here in not the exact same style. But I'll tell you what wouldn't benefit: the audience, the show, the story. That's the, like, objectively speaking, I could play a better game. I could like top trumps my way through D&D with a battle map more. And yet I don't mind when it's like, oh, there's a door here or there's that. You just kind of go, okay, yeah, that's the. I don't mind a bit of theater, mind prop and blockades from the DM. I think knowing that going in is always helpful. And we shot about that before, which is like, is this a cutscene or is this a the controller works scene? Because if the controller works, I'd like to interrupt, but it's a cutscene. You go ahead.
Yeah.
The other two questions there are, or the two I spotted, was, do we use combat music? I think at home I tend to turn it down a little bit, but I love having an incredible playlist. And I've heard you have, you know, psychologically traumatized people through your use of music and games before we met. We tend not to do it these days because it's mics and audio fidelity, but absolutely, I find music so immersive.
Yeah, I love music. I remember it was one of the first sessions of a game I was running in college, and I had music on in the background, and I was describing, like, again, it was Declan in cutscene mode, and it was coming to the end of the session, and they had successfully kind of they had been kind of ambushed while they were on the road. They were escorting a royal member of the royal family, and they had been ambushed, and they had done what they had to do. They defeated the ambush, and it was one of those things where they were like, the bad guys keep coming. Like, these things keep coming. Like, you said there was 5 of them, but now we've put down 3, but there's 5 more, and they're coming from behind the trees. They're kind of coming from all these directions. And it was one of those things where I, like, again, the music, it was kind of combat in the background. It was ramping up in a big, big way. And then I just described it, there's just this explosion. I just said, there's just an explosion. And at that exact moment, the music just kind of, it was like, it was the dubstep drop. It was one of those freaky things where it just aligned up. And I remember everybody, I even kind of went, whoa, at that moment. And we went straight into it. And like, it was, I think they felt like they were about to, even with this thing, they were pushing back. And then I had the big bad just kind of appear very, very early on, and he kills the noble. And now suddenly it's the fuck. Okay, we've done all this, we've fought all these things. And now there's this thing that has just kind of wiped us and killed her. Shit. And he vanishes without even acknowledging them. It was kind of, you are not worth my time. It was just the way that it was just, it even took me out of it. It didn't take me out of it. It pulled me bigger into it, because it felt like, and there's certain pieces of music that people can't listen to anymore because I used it for certain scenes. And like that, I ruined the Gladiator soundtrack for a lot of people.
I've heard that. I wonder if I've been thinking on, like, because music immersion, the tools are there to, and you know, based on what Sue's telling us and based on what we've heard from other people as well, the tools are there to help with immersion. And so, you know, maybe it's a bit like salt or spice in flavor, right? So it's like, we need a little pinch of salt and we're immersed. Some people a little bit more salt and that's that flavor. Some people a little bit of spice on top. And it's just these extra tools that we have at our disposal: music, battle maps, VTTs. Take what you want, use what you need. The strange thing about VTTs compared to some other tools is that some tools at the table can be quite personal. They can be quite like individual. Like, I just need to draw my characters as I play, or I just need to like do this sort of like poetry read, or I need these ways that I need to personally immerse myself in the character. Whereas there's not really a way. I've never come across a player who draws their own personal battle map, where it's like, I know we're theater in mind, but you mind if I just draw this out? Like, so I have it. Even on the site, like they don't even have to say it's just like, right, there's a corridor, there's this, there's that. You just picture the kind of like that's what that is. Because worst case scenario, you go, okay, could I run down the corridor and maybe turn the corner and like leap down the stairs? And the end might be like, there's no stairs. And you're like, oh, sorry, probably just drew that in because I thought there should be. And that would be the kind of style of battle map I'd do if I needed to have one, I suppose. I'm conscious there's a couple of questions in chat as well. The only thing I was going to say about potentially VTTs and less so battle maps is it's probably interface and seamlessness. Like if we could chip in our heads be hooked up to it and our at speed of thought it happened, I think the two of us would be like, yeah, we're fine. It's like I think we get a little bit kind of like, okay, I'm gonna move my guy. That's not really moving. This kind of thing.
I feel like my mom trying to, send to Facebook.
Yeah, and it's because we don't know the tools, right? There's probably really easy ways to be like, oh, you just do this and do this. And the times I play with people who use them a lot, they're just like, oh yeah, it's just Control Z, up space, and then plus sign squiggly thing. And I'm like, okay. I'm not gonna remember that every time. And seeing people's health is very handy. But that was to DM Paul Nexus's point about like, do not take away from the dramatic action of like I flip over the table, swan dive onto the guard. Okay, I'll move your mini. I to be honest, I think sometimes DMs can fall foul of that theater of the mind as well. Like this is one of my bugbears, DM wise, and I sometimes get snarky at the table. Where it's like, okay, I leap onto the table and then I like slide down the banisters to attack this person. And they're like, okay, give me an acrobatics check. It's like, oh no, sorry, let me take that back. I use my 30 feet of movement and very boringly walk over to them because I'm within 30 feet. Do you want flavor or not? Like, just let me do the thing. And so theater mind can sometimes get in the way in that sense. Whereas like with a battle map, it's like I literally can move it. It's not going to cost my movement. And I was tying that into a little bit to Zul's question. Does theater of the mind take away control from the players? Because they feel sometimes the GMs take away agencies where there's theater of the mind and it's too fluid. And they kind of yank the rug out and suddenly change things. I think that is a danger for GMs. I think there's a certain trust with theater of the mind that you have to, and like a session zero trust and to reinforce. When I do theater of the mind, I tend to err on the side of the players more so than the side of the baddies because I have the whole world at my disposal. Like you got whatever little crumbs I've set the scene with. Unless it's absolutely ridiculous. Like theater of the mind in Homebrew, Arlington leaping off a cliff and using his axe to slow his descent. I'm like, no, and like, okay, but like we're rolling for this. Like this isn't you using your movement. This is you plummeting 500 feet and thinking you can catch yourself in a craggy rock with an axe.
We see there's the difference. Because you saying, you've the player who backflips onto the table and backflips onto the banister and slides down. Give me an acrobatics check. Hang on, no, look at the character. They're a trickster rogue, or they're a bard with a dancing school of dance.
Yeah,
that's not going to be something like unless you've stipulated the banister's wonky or it's covered in grease. Yeah, no, there's no complication. This is the thing that they can do. Like. If it doesn't warrant that there's no risk to it, like let him at it. So again, Arlington probably is he's a fighter. He's big. He's beefy. He's all these things. He's big ass battle axe. So him jumping off a wall to the ground, don't need an athletics check for this.
Yeah,
but you are just after throwing yourself off a cliff, and it's class and it sounds amazing.
Yeah,
and I can see it. But you still have to roll for that though, because there's an inherent danger with this. And I will put my hands up. Like you were saying sometimes things that you get snarky about. I do get a little bit snarky, where it as the DM in Theater of the Mind, where my agency, like it's the one thing I get to do in the game. Yeah. Is describe things. Now, I will I am I edit myself, so I'm used to. Why did it take me 8 minutes to describe that castle? So I'm the opposite of you, Ben, where it's like you're at a castle. Like I'll go into, and the windows were actually installed by Yennefer's fourth cousin's uncle's mother. She herself, an artisan of glass blowing. You're like, what's that got to do with the plot? Leave me alone. It's in my brain, and I want to get it out there. And I love kind of describing, but I know for a fact there are times where I start describing something for a player that I should give to them. And my worry is, and I what I've started doing is I have started kind of breadcrumbing it a little bit more, where it's I'm doing this, now how are you reacting? Now how do you feel? How do you give me your character's response to this? And in that, I try not to yank the rug out from about changing things. Where we're in a tavern, okay. My character climbs up the chimney. Oh, I didn't say there was a chimney.
Yeah.
It's a fucking tavern. There's going to be a chimney. There's going to be a fireplace. There's going to be fucking shitty wooden chandeliers hanging down from a shield. There's going to be barrels of ale. You add to that scene as well. You describe that world. You telling me, yeah, there's kegs. See all those kegs standing over by the wall? Yeah, because you described the barman as being incredibly lazy, and he has not bothered bringing him over like his wife was yelling at him to do when he first arrived, and he's just left him there all day. Yeah, I'm going over to those and I'm tipping the poison into them.
Yeah,
love it. You've added that into that space. We all kind of, again, we all consent to that. That is an image that we can all, yes, 100% go for that. And I like to, like with Theatre of the Mind, I like to add like that. If we're talking kind of, salt and spice, I like to add a little bit of the pepper, and then go, okay, so now what are you adding? What do you get to? What are you putting in the pot for this?
And there's something kind of nice, like the tactical elements of, haha, I've got you, like the riposte back and forth between player and DM, which is fun as long as it's friendly and not antagonistic in a way. You still get in Theatre of Mind, I believe, because there's some lovely moments. We've both done it to each other, and we both know, like, you kind of have to respect the game in a way, where it's like that, say that tavern and that pile of barrels. I'm like, pile of barrels, how are they stacked? It's like, just one on top of the other. It's like probably tied together with ropes, right? It's like, yeah, they are. Right, I'm going to cut the ropes, so they're going to spill it. And you're like, you son of a gun. But yes, of course you can.
Yeah.
It's that kind of, and sometimes I feel with Theatre of the Mind games and people who are not used to this style of playing, they try to lead the GM into a gotcha trap. And I would do this. I'm guilty of this in a way. I try not to anymore. I try to just explain, like, hey, could I do this if this is there? Whereas before it's like, the way you said the air was thick. It's like, yes. And are you familiar with the weight of phosphorus? You'd be like, no. Well, it turns out I am. And you're like, I'm not describing a heavier air that's like flammable.
Yes.
And sometimes you can get that kind of like, well, I've got you to say a lot of little yeses that if you put them all together, technically you've created a perpetual motion machine that I can, because I love them as conversations. I love them as like, it's 2 a.m. in a kitchen at a party and someone goes, oh, we did this incredible thing at our D&D table. I'm like, of course you did. The DM let it. Like, let it happen. So that's where you don't really get that as much with Battlemaps, I think, and VTTs, because what you have is what you see and you work away with it. Not to say that isn't possible, because I'm aware that Zul in chat is saying that their GM kind of lets them add little bits to it. They get them to describe what they're doing, so that combat in and of itself doesn't feel as dry. It's not as hack and slash. And other systems have gotten quite good at building that into the game itself. Like one thing we might try bring forward in the next Romancing the Dungeon is Fabula Ultima's state your intent at the start of an initiative. So that so it's not a race to 0 HP. It's I just need to get this gem onto that altar. Well, we just need to stop that gem getting there. So once we have the gem, it's like, we're not like, and now we're going to kill you. It's like, put your arms down. We have the thing.
we
people naturally want to live.
Yeah,
exactly that. And then Paul was asking if our first game had maps and Battlemaps. You'd already answered that your first was Theatre of Mind.
Yep.
I can't remember. Paul, you probably remember. Were we playing with Battlemaps early days? I don't think we did all that often. I think we had like a sheet of paper we draw on, but it was very rudimentary and it was just there to. No, because I remember casting like when I first got Fireball, we were just talking about like a valley and a cavern, and there was a row of kind of bandits that came up, and we just sort of cast it. Yeah, we had a map, but not. Yeah, we had like a literal world map, and we were able to. And I think I also was drawing. Like, I took it upon myself to draw as we were going around bits. Maybe that's it. Maybe I don't like battle maps because I don't have control of. I don't get to draw my map.
I'm gonna go on a small he's still that's
that's very cute. We should frame it. We should put it up in the homebrew shed.
I'm gonna go on a bit of a tangent. It's a hard left tangent. It's based on something you said. It's kind of not to do with the. I guess I can tie it into the VTT and the theater of the mind. There is that sort of. There's that line or that belief or whatever. Like where it's there's nothing worse than being at a house party and you get stuck to the person who's telling you about this weird dream they had, and like nobody finds your dreams interesting. Nobody finds. I think there's a little bit of that around Dungeons and Dragons and TTRPGs. It's like, yeah, it's cool in your head because you were at the table. You shouldn't tell people. I fucking love it when people tell me about their dreams. And I love it when people tell me their TTRPG stories. Like, so they set it up. And even if it was on a VTT, okay, so even if, and I have had conversations with DMs and players who use these, but then I'm talking to you at a convention, I'm talking to you in an online chat, whatever it is. You don't have the VTT in front of you. You don't have the mini in front of you. You're telling me what you saw, what you imagined.
Yeah.
So the VTT is a really, again, it's a prop for theater of the mind, I think, in a big way. And I think, over the last hour as we've been talking about it, and Zool has kind of said, Joe, that the VTT helps them not strain. And I think that's a really wonderful sort of wonderful aspect of this as a tool. I think for me, one of the things is because I feel like I don't need it. I think it's because I feel like I'm able to get a clearer picture
without
it.
Yeah.
And I again, when that map is on screen or it's on the table in front of me, I'm probably not paying attention to it. If I'm being honest, because I'm already in the woods.
Yeah.
I'm Ben, you talked about how the map and the VTT can be a great arbitrator between the DM and the player, or the DM, the player, and the world. 100%. I see that as well. You know what it is? I think I've just been incredibly spoiled and privileged with my experiences with TTRPGs, both in terms of my early days. Like my friend Rebecca was one of she DM'd, and I still think about this game and the story and the character I played. She ran a game of werewolf and vampire. We were not aware she was running both. So I signed up for her werewolf game. A bunch of other people signed up for a vampire game. It was all set at the exact same time. We were actually each other's BBGs. We didn't even, and it was one of those things where we were chasing them because they had something that we needed to get back, but we just thought they were her NPCs. And it twice in the year we clashed. Not once was there a a map or a graph or anything like that. But I remember she painted such vivid pictures, and she allowed us to kind of add a little bit of color, and more than just so how does this go? There was none of that. But it was, tell me as you reach up to swing out with your claws, like what are you what are you feeling? What are you experiencing? What do you see? And I think that really set me up, like, because of the, I guess because I enjoy theater of the mind, and I feel like I it doesn't, how do I phrase this? Like, I don't find it, I guess I use all my senses with it. Like, I, you tell me the character's overturned and it's on fire, I can smell it. I can smell the smoke.
Yeah.
You tell me it's cold, I can feel it. I've like, even as a kid, I think it was one of those things where I just kind of lost myself in whatever I was reading, whatever I was playing, and I just, yeah, I love that VTTs can be that that tool or that aid for that, because it is that, like, I have been, at a house party, and like, even at my birthday 2 weeks ago, one of my husband's friends, her husband was like, "Oh, Jade, was telling me that you play Dungeons and Dragons, and I've always wanted to try it. Like, we played it once before, and my character was this small angry dwarf." And I was like, and he proceeds to tell me what his small angry dwarf did. And again, I can see it. I can, I am, yeah. I love that, and I love that. I think it's not that I've changed my mind on VTTs, but I think I can appreciate them.
Yes,
for what they allow for.
I think they're a really good balancer. They get everyone on the same page. They get everyone kind of like there's no, everyone's experience is an equal experience in some way. Well, so, people will still imagine their own thing. People will still kind of think around it. For me, it just gives me a little bit extra admin that I don't particularly want at the table. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm there, I move here, I do this, and they're like, have you moved your token? I'm like, oh, sorry, yeah, let me just move that across. And I think Neil has a really good point that for people who are not actors or creative writers, the other mind can be off-putting and intimidating because they're not comfortable with that style of play, not comfortable using the. For me, there's no wrong. And I think in a world where we get taught that's, 1 + 1 = 2, that's the right answer. This is, exactly what the essay should say. You're not wrong for not smelling the smoke of an overturned burning carriage. You're not wrong for not feeling the cold. You're not wrong for wanting a little bit more visual input for you to be immersed in a world. And I think it's really hard for people to go, and I know it's a certain personality type, and I know it's even kind of certain kind of neurodivergence, but what does it look like? It's like, it looks like whatever you want it to look like. No, it has a shape, it has a color. What does it look like? Like, objectively, what is this thing? And I'm like, well, it could be anything. It's like, no, it can't be anything. Tell me what it looks like. Because there's a certain need for, if I'm going to believe in this thing being real, it can't just all be made up. Like, you as the GM or you as a player have to know what it looks like for me to feel comfortable that we're all playing a serious, real game. And I met players like that. I judged them at parties. I agree with them. I'm like, yeah, that's what you need. Also, I love hearing about people's. It's funny, I shit on when things happen. It's like, I took the sword of 1,000 awesomeness and I slayed 5 dragons. That's where I'm kind of like, yeah, of course you did. But when it's like, we did this incredible stealth mission where like this person dressed up as this and they snuck in here and we used this actual technique that was really clever and we got our way around that. I'm like, oh, that's really good. Or just like, this is the backstory and this is where they came from and this is why they're on the mission. I'm like, that's so cool. Like, that's like, tell me more about this person. I was in London recently at a friend's birthday party and we went to university together and neither of us were playing tabletop role-playing games at the time. And they've since gotten into it and I met their D&D party. And like, boy, what a beautiful social tool, because I knew them and I knew maybe one or two other people's, but there was times at this birthday party I was surrounded by people I didn't know. I was pretty confident I could just turn around and say, so who do you play? They'd just tell me. And that was a lovely, and like genuinely, it wasn't buying time. It was just like, tell me more about them. And what's their relation to this person? And I think as I went around the party, and sort of picked up more of the stories, I was able to be like, oh, they were involved in the heist over here. And they're like, how do you know that? I was like, I was talking to, didn't even use the real name. It's like, I was talking to like Grognar. They're like, you know Grognar? It's like, yeah, no, I just met him. Like, so, and no, Zul, you wouldn't annoy me asking questions at all. That's not the, not in the slightest. I try my best to be patient with describing things because it's important. It's really important to have that clear picture. And I'm also able to give players an objective answer if they need it. If someone's like, you have to tell me what the slime on the wall looks like, I'm like, okay, it's actually weirdly not green and mossy. It's sort of this putrid, dripping orange lava-like, but it still has the fuzz of fauna and flora combined. And it's like, okay, great, now I know. Whereas I'd be like, it's a slimy wall. Picture whatever slime you want. It doesn't matter what color it is. But I also know there's a monster manual where it's like, well, no, purple slimes do this, and orange. It's like, okay, not my slimes.
Yeah, not my slimes. I was going to say, but not my purple slime.
Yeah, not, so it wouldn't be annoying in the slightest.
No,
I think you're right. We're both lucky in that we spend a lot of our time imagining stuff anyway.
Yeah,
like I feel like there's this could be a strange thought experiment, and Zul, you're going to be part of this. As a kid, when you were in a car on a long drive, did you picture the man or the thing on the wires like running along? So it's like on a fence or like on the telephone wires, or like it's either Sonic or it's a surfboard or it's a guy. They're just running along, and every time they jump and they land back on the next one. Did you like imprint a visual scene at the window of a car?
It was always sort of like, so I played this game called Pocky and Rocky on the Super Nintendo, and one of the characters in it was a scarecrow, like an actual scarecrow, not like and I mean was a pogo stick scarecrow. And as a kid, for the longest time when we were driving past, I could see him at the top of the post, and he would spring from that to the next, and then sometimes he would fall and he'd have to kind of slide, and then I used to invent ninjas, like figuring out what windows they'd come in the church. Like ninjas would come in that window and that window, but the good ninjas would be at that window because that, like, they're the brighter windows, and they're going to come over and they're going to jump over so.
And rather interestingly, we both did that and Zul did not, and that was my theory. And that was my kind of hypothesis. So I think going forward, a good VTT or theater of mind question is: do you picture the guy on the running alongside the car? Do you picture a thing doing a thing beside it? And if the person says yes, they're probably on a sample size of 3. I can say emphatically and objectively, there's no. They're probably theater of their mind. But if they say no, they're probably Battlemaps and VTT. That's my hot take. Yeah, interesting. And they're also sort of like, I could do 2D. Sometimes they were 2D characters, and again, sometimes they'd fall off or they'd trip back. I'm like, no, they fell, and I picture them kind of like tumbling, and then I'm like, well, that's them gone for a while. And then I'd look around, and then look back in the window. It's like, oh, they're coming back. they've caught up.
I used to. I think every kid does this. You know, like it's like everyone talks about like seeing things in clouds and stuff like that. We used to have this weird linoleum or vinyl in the bathroom of our house, and it looked like cork. Like it was awful. I cannot fathom.
We do not mean to offend the people of Cork, but I know what you mean. What a horrible city.
But green as well. Like it was a kind of, I don't know, it was just awful.
Yeah, they need to clean that river.
They really do. But I used to, Jesus, sitting on the toilet as a kid, I used to imagine I'd look at the shapes, and like some of the shapes were good shapes, and Jesus Christ, talk to them. And then they would be telling me about the bad shapes, and I could see the bad shapes, and then sometimes the bad shapes would move over, and there'd be a fight between the things on the floor. I probably should have had a therapist as a child.
Definitely, the bad shapes cannot hurt you here. But yeah, sorry. What I mean is, to clarify as well for Zul, is like I don't mean not playing make believe and play and imagination. For sure, there was plenty of like. play there. It's just weirdly, I've come across in my life people who know the telephone wire man and people who don't. And like, it's a different man, but have that kind of.
It's the monster from Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah, people who know the good shapes and the bad shapes.
The way you talk about it, the telephone man, it sounds so sinister.
The telephone man. Everyone knows the telephone man. He runs like telephone wires.
He chases you when you're in the car as a little kid.
Yeah, you can never escape the telephone man. He'll find you.
Ring, ring, bitch.
Operator. But yes, I would have a similar kind of style of play where it wasn't necessarily tactile or anything. Or even if it was, it would be that simple kind of thing of like a couple of Lego blocks together and now it's a spaceship. Great, cool, don't need no more. And just looking at shapes and looking at like even trees, seeing faces and everything. I used to have a notebook that I draw vegetables in, and then I'd give them like weapons and good faces. And then I'd draw sweets and they'd be evil because, vegetables are good for you, but sweets are bad.
Thank you.
Brendan Mulligan, eat your heart out. I think Crown of Corn and the Candy or whatever that show was essentially. I was like, I played that game when I was a kid. I should need to find one of these notebooks. They're all adorable. Carrots were easy to draw, obviously, but peas were a harder kind of army. Because they were so small that it's like, okay. And you usually, when you've like a big thick marker because you're a big thick kid. So yeah, I think that's probably a good place to end the show. What do you think?
Yeah, big thick marker, big thick kid.
Yeah, growing up in Ireland,
I've given myself hiccups.
Yeah, we'll call it a day for today. That's it's like a
really on that.
So that's time. It's time for us. But we are back in 2 weeks. It's we're about 9 days out from Valentine's Day, so it's hard to know which episode is closer than the next. But I think the next one's slightly closer to Valentine's Day. And the plan at the moment, although plans can change, is that we're going to talk about romance and just romance at the table. And because we do Romancing the Dungeon, I might be there, I might not. I have to travel. I'll be heading out to Western Canada to visit my dad for 3 weeks. So timing wise, if I'm not busy helping him out with stuff, then I'll be on. But if I am, then I'm sure one or many of the Romancing the Dungeon cast will be happy to talk about romance at the table. And there's probably other people we can rope in and ask for similar things. But we're not being coy about guests, we just haven't asked anyone. So we're probably going to raid?
Yes, I'm looking for someone to raid. Yeah. I think now that January's over, excuse me, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Now that January's over, I think I'm a bit more sort of like...
The bad shapes! Did it?
No.
Did it help?
It didn't. But thank you for trying.
Thought I could you.
Yeah, I have a technique that I'm going to try and use to get rid of them. Eventually. Okay. I think we'll raid D&D Boy Band.
Oh yeah.
We'll drop in there. Oh, that art is gorgeous. And yeah, we're back in 2 weeks' time. There is a schedule of some it's more man's less row.
I don't even know what that means. There's romance.
It's a weird show.
Yeah,
it's about
love.
Love, but in all it's not about rolling for love around that. It's just I thought it was a fun little theme.
It is
to explore. But we're gonna raid D&D Boy Band. Oh, I'm gonna get rid of these hiccups, and we're gonna be back. There's gonna be a schedule posted, hopefully in the next couple of days, if not next week, of when these hiccups will be over, but also kind of some of the new shows. I am pulling the finger out, and I'm getting myself organized for stuff. So keep an eye on that on the socials. Until then, this is D&D Boy Band. We've had technical hiccups, but this, God, no.
Classic.
We're
I wish
waiting.
I could, because if I could do any of these things, I'd vamp for you, but you're the only one who can get us over there.
No, we're good.
And
We're
tell
out.
people,
We're gonna bounce.
Alright.
We're out.
Bye.
Bye. Oh God, they're still there. Bye.